6 Music.
You are now entering a parallel universe. And wipe your feet on the way in.
Marc Riley, BBC 6 Music.
There are only a few guitarists who I would trust to take over Jimmy Page's role. Paul Leary from Butthole Surfers being one of them. Hurdy-gurdy man, cover of the Donovan tune, obviously. And I am here in Salford whilst in Beverley. Beverley Bob, hello, mate.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. We had Pigs in session, and, we had Jane Weaver last night, and on Monday night, we had Crack Cloud. It's just been a vintage week, really has.
Wow, what a week indeed. Yeah. Absolutely. So, we're not doing that. What time is it there now? We're over that, aren't we?
We're over that.
It's just daft.
Yeah, it's stupid, isn't it?
It is stupid, really. So we'll look at Melody Maker here, 12th of January 1991. The Hacienda was granted a temporary stay of execution by a Manchester magistrate last week. Representatives of the club, co-owned by Tony Wilson and New Order, were in court fighting to retain its entertainment licence following the club's last court appearance in July in the midst of frenzied reporting of the acid house craze. Hacienda has almost completely cleaned up its act. People are thoroughly searched on entering and known dealers have been turned over to the police. Goes on to say that throughout the last 6 months, the Hacienda has played down the fact they were facing extinction. They refused to talk to the press repeatedly, and when pressed, would only say that the place for conversation is in court, nor have they organised any Save the Hacienda type campaigns for fear of irritating the magistrates. However, the importance of the club as a cultural and tourist draw to the city obviously didn't escape the magistrates' attention. They've received hundreds of letters of support from all over the UK, many of them from local businesses around the Whitworth Street area. So this was obviously a big deal, wasn't it? The Hacienda lasted for another 6 years, I think, after this. It lost.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And now, of course, it's apartments.
Yeah, before that, it was a yacht sales room, and before that, I believe it was a poorhouse.
Really, was it?
I think so.
I knew it had been a yacht kind of showroom thing. I didn't realise it had been a poorhouse.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Also in the news, Revolting Cocks are finally playing dates in the UK. The news follows a series of controversial problems which scuppered their plans to appear in London last September. Tory MP Teddy Taylor has asked the Home Secretary to stop the band entering England. This was on account of their notorious stage show. They included a herd of cows, 20-foot-high walls of flame and electrifiable fence. Revco has since informed the Home Office they will tone down the content of their show. However, singer Al Jorgensen still promises something special, he says, and has invited Teddy Taylor to join the band on stage. I wonder if that happened.
I never saw him. I never ever saw the band live. I saw Ministry once.
Yeah. Well, I interviewed Al Jorgensen a couple of times last year, actually, and he was a very, very entertaining, as you'd imagine. But if you've read his book, you wonder how he's still with us, to be honest, because he's lived a reckless life. He really has.
Oh, was he? Right, okay. I mean, on the surface, he seems to be the type.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Also in the news, you've got Kate Bush is planning a tour of the UK to coincide with the release of her new LP. Bush, who's renowned for taking a long time over her albums, is said to be working very quickly on her latest project and is considering a tour to coincide with the release. An EMI spokesman said, most unusually for Kate, she's working very fast at the moment. She hasn't been under any pressure from the record company, so it's really up to her when it comes out. This is, I'm guessing the album is The Red Shoes, which didn't come out actually for another 3 years.
Right, okay.
And the talk about touring, which I think she'd mentioned a few times, hadn't she, never really happened. She did that one tour in 79, I think, and then nothing ever materialised.
Was that stage fright? Because, I mean, obviously she had the big comeback at the Hammersmith Odeon, didn't she?
Yeah, possibly. Do you know, I don't know. Possibly. I know it took a lot to organise. And a piece, Dinosaur Jr. by Simon Reynolds here. He says, after a year of rumours about Dinosaur splitting and retiring from music altogether, Jay Mascis finally returns with a major label contract, a new single, The Wagon, and a forthcoming album, Green Mind. So this was after Lou Barlow had left. So it's just Murph and Mascis at this point.
Right, okay.
According to Jay, the last 2 years haven't all been indolence. I'd probably like to be able to watch TV all day, he says, but I can't handle it. I'm not man enough to be happy with that. If you're driven to do something, you can't bear to sit around all day. Simon Reynolds notes, driven? The idea of Mascis as a driven individual frankly flabbergasts me. The way his words just seep indistinctly, barely enunciated from his lips, just has to be heard to be believed.
Ooh.
He's one of these notorious, I've interviewed him a few times, and it's very, very difficult because he talks so slowly and quietly where to know when he's finished.
Do you know, it's a lot easier doing that if you're doing an interview for print than if you're doing it on radio, because I've been on the receiving end of some of those characters who were never, in all honesty, being awkward. They just talk very slowly and very kind of ponderous and thoughtful, but it just doesn't make for a good radio interview, really. And if I'm on the other end of it as well, that really doesn't help.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
On the new singles front, you got reviewed by Chris Roberts, you got Mariah Carey, David Lee Roth, etc. Also, you got the Motown Junk, the second single on Heavenly from New Boys at this point in time, the Manic Street Preachers. He says, a wodge of rave reviews accompanies this amusing roar through the Clash's Give 'Em Enough Rope songbook. Manic Street Preachers almost succeed in conveying some of their own youthful exuberance to the listener. And they've undeniable rockist presence, but the intro of Revolution, Revolution and the outro of We Destroy Rock and Roll only serve to light up the word scam in red neon letters and remind you that this is, after all, the record label that gave us Flowered Up. So, wrong on both counts. Heavenly, a classic label.
Well, completely.
And
Sorry,
band.
who did the review?
Chris Roberts, it says here.
Right, okay.
And elsewhere, Steve Sutherland goes to meet Cocteau Twins at a casino in Las Vegas, where they're playing the last date of their American tour, touring the album Heaven or Las Vegas.
Yeah.
True to the perversity that guides their star, he says, such ordinary folk making such celestial music, they just had to bring their sublime sound and unleash it here in the land of the beasts, he writes.
It's always a wonderful thing to hear Cocteau Twins, and we're going to now, aren't we?
We are, I think, yeah.
Okay, Ice Blink Look. I would like to dedicate that to Simon Raymond and Liz Fraser. That is Cocteau Twins and Ice Blink Look. I'm Mark Riley, and over in Beverley we've got Bob Hughes.
Yeah, we're looking at Melody Maker, 12th of January 1991, in the gossipy bits here. Martin Coogan of the Mock Turtles was having a drink in the Columbia Hotel last week when Van Morrison, his all-time hero, walked into the bar and parked himself at the next table. Martin steeled himself to ask for an autograph, trying hard to ignore all the tales he knew of Van's legendary grumpiness. Eventually, he plucked up the courage, approached him pen in hand, and got no further than, "Excuse me, Mr. Morrison," before being violently told to F off. So I must have got lucky last year, because all these tales are everywhere, aren't they, about Van Morrison and his supposed grumpiness. But I met him, and he was just so nice.
You caught him on an off day, Bob.
That's what I
mean,
thought.
the stories are legion. I've got some from within the BBC, which, are pretty disagreeable, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I've heard one of those. I think you told me one of those. Yeah. Okay. Also on the same subject, well, on the gossipy stuff, Peter Hook, he says, when we played the Royal Albert Hall, some guy sold 1,000 new order bootlegs outside at £10 each. When people got home, they found he just bought loads of crap old records for 49p and stuck labels on them.
Wow.
What a scam.
Wow.
And Julianne Reagan from All About Eve contacted our office this week, all in a fluster, because she'd met Colour Me Bad, the band she'd named as the worst ever in our recent Q&A. Met the band at a party, and they turned out to be really nice. She said, could I change it to the Sisters of Mercy instead?
Got to be careful, haven't you?
You have, really.
You know, it's nice to be nice, says he.
And Bob Stanley interviews a new band at this point, Denim. I know that this is the right time for Denim. I've spent a year plotting. It has to happen now, so says Lawrence. One of pop's more enigmatic figures for some 10 years now. Until 1989, he was head honcho of Felt, a group who left us 10 albums which veered from pop to jazz to film soundtracks and all the way back again. After Felt's demise, Lawrence packed his bags and flew to America. He says, I went there with no ideas or plans. I was in New York in the studio flat in Soho, and I knew that Denim was the name of my next band. The music was totally inspired by that name, but I needed to get back to London because the whole sound seemed very London in my head.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Goes on to say the four-piece Denim were rehearsing by last summer. Siobhan Brooks was a keyboard player, a specialist in Icy Cool. The bassist was Bill Bass, a man some way out of his teens who once auditioned for James Taylor in the Apple Boutique in the late 60s. Lawrence says, I don't know his surname. He was introduced to me as Bill Bass, and that's what we call him. I don't even know the guitarist's name at all. He's just the guitarist in Denim.
Well, and at one point in time, he had one of the drummers from the Glitter Band in Denim, yeah.
Well, obviously, Denim themselves owed a lot to the Glitter Band, didn't they? He says here, I detest the 80s, so he wants to bring that, sort of somehow fuse the 70s and the 90s.
Yeah.
That's the vision in his head. And there's just a great quote to end. He says, some people might think that Denim are a attack band when they read about us, but the music's totally totally valid. Driving a Mercedes out of the factory gates, that's what Denim is all about.
One of the great bands, and now, of course, Mozart State, and he's got that kind of weird juxtaposition of this brilliant pop tune with the lyrics all relating to the fact that he's living in relative poverty, as the lyrics say, which is true and which is a tragedy, as it is for anybody who's going through these tough times at the moment. But anyway, we're going to play a tune now called Middle of the Road, aren't we?
We are, mate.
And it will raise a smile, hopefully. Love it. That is Denim and Middle of the Road. I'm Mark Riley, and that is Mr. Bobby Hughes, and we are in the parallel universe.
We are looking at Melody Maker, 12th of January 1991. As you say, Lawrence's new project, Mozart Estate. The album's out late January, I believe, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. They're doing a session for us as well.
Ooh, lovely.
He's got a new band, hasn't he? The backing band is not the same as was with Terry and everybody.
Yeah, that's right. So January 91 gigs this week. You've got Half Man, Half Biscuit at Subterranean in Ladbroke Grove, Revco at Manchester International, the Melvins at the Venue in London, Deep Purple at Edinburgh Playhouse, Edwyn Collins' Coventry TikTok, a reformed Stump at the Old Queen's Hotel in Stockwell, Ween at the White Horse in Hampstead, there's a good night out, Fairport Convention at the Marlow Theatre in Canterbury, the Godfathers at Brixton Academy, Teenage Fan Club and Trash Can Sinatras at an Amnesty International benefit at Glasgow's Cumbernauld Theatre, an American Music Club at the Borderline in London. Bit of a thin week, really. Early days, New Year. Not many bands on tour.
Fair enough.
It also says World of Twist Gordon King is special guest DJ at Celebration of Specialness, a club night at 42nd Street in Manchester. On the new album front, not quite new album, but John Wilde reviews the compilation Frank Sinatra, The Capital Years. He says this 3-CD set, released to celebrate his 75th anniversary, is a riveting tour through his hipster years of the 50s and early 60s, 75 hallowed meditations on love and loss. He starts the review by saying, someone remarked recently that watching Frank Sinatra perform these days is rather like watching George Foreman box. When he performed at the Albert Hall last year, there were times when it was like listening to George Foreman sing. I bet he never said that to his face, Mark.
No.
That never happened.
No, funny.
On the live front, you got the Soup Dragons, supported by Blur at Brixton Academy by Ian Watson. Obviously, very, very early days here for Blur.
Right.
So what do we have here? He says, a host of naked emperors or some timely songsmiths. Let's project some hindsight into the arena. Just imagine it's 1991, Baggy is dead, and we all want to know if 1990 was just one big scam. Even with the clothes on, Blur are reaching for the sky. They're bold as brass and twice as shiny, not the lethargic chancers that their name suggests, but young bucks to whom surly bad attitude, lazy wah-wah histrionics and baggy by numbers airhead lyrics are the trademarks of past generation. Like it goes on to say that like Ocean Colour Scene, they're 60s obsessed without sounding too revivalist. They reclaim the haircuts, fashion and the songs.
Right, okay, well, they're still here, aren't they? And writing brilliant tunes, and Damon's, he's all over the place doing wonderful stuff. So, excellent. Okay, Bob, enjoyed that very much, mate. Thank you.
Me too, mate.
All right, then we'll do it again next Tuesday. I'll see you then. And we need to say bye to everybody. We're going to leave you now with the Orb and Little Fluffy Clouds. And Giddy's next. Cheers, all. Bye-bye.
Prepare to exit the parallel universe.
Mark Riley, BBC 6 Music.
And shut the door on your way out.